Hello and welcome to another week of building Kamino. Last week we got done all of these big lumps in the water, which a couple of people were quite a big fan of. Some people talked about maybe connecting some of them to create larger waves. I might try that and see if that looks good this week. But besides that, we don't have too much left to go, so let's get straight into it.
Move it, troopers! On the double! Fire!
So to kick things off this episode, I thought I would talk a little bit about the Bad Batch in one of the most recent episodes, where let's just say something happens to Kamino. And I was asked a lot if I was going to be making this mock quote-unquote accurate. And the answer to your question is, yeah, let's do it. Obviously, after 29 weeks of working on this mock and 1 week until I believe this should be completed, I don't think I'm immediately going to smash it up to pieces just to fulfill some accuracy to the show. Maybe when the mock's finished, we can have a conversation about maybe doing something to it. The thing is, I don't kind of want to destroy all of my pieces, like, beyond reuse again, and also there's a bunch of lighting in the mock and other things going on. So, will I smash it all up with a hammer or a venator or whatever? Probably not. But as I said before, we'll have to wait and see. The hammer thing's almost certainly not happening. Just gonna put that out right now. So yeah, thought I should just address that, as Kamino is now no longer existent, although I am very happy that that is the case that the show is taken, rather than a clone uprising, in which case I'd have to spend thousands of pounds on Phase 2 troopers or specialised TK troopers or whatever like that. So in terms of my wallet, this was definitely the best decision that could have happened. So anyway, let's get back to the actual update of the mock. Okay, so as mentioned before, some people thought about maybe connecting the waves might be a good idea to make them look a little bit bigger. So I'm going to do that just now with, I think, these three here. There's a dog barking outside, that's cool. Like these two, and these two. I'm going to connect those together and just see how they look. And I'll get back to you after I've done that. Okay, so after working on the water a little bit, you can see I kind of made those connections I was talking about. And I actually think they look quite good. I made a couple more over here. I think they do actually make it look more, I was about to say more watery, but that doesn't really make sense. I just think the water looks better like this. A lot of people were also asking me to add like the lighter bits around. I think by using white underneath the water, it kind of works to create that color difference. Unfortunately for this main wave here, I used black and I don't have enough white plates to redo it. So for most of the water splotches, it looks alright, except for this main one, but you know, water is multicolored. I don't know what I'm saying. Let's just move on. Now, last week's update, I said I didn't put any waves underneath the main structure because you wouldn't really see it because it would all be covered in shadow. But some eagle-eye viewers may have noticed that this was hanging around underneath the main platform here. And you might be wondering, Sam, what on earth is this? Well, by the time last week's episode came out, I couldn't actually showcase this because it would have been a spoiler for the Bad Batch show. But inevitably, they once again went back to Kamino, and they turns out there's a giant underwater pod system throughout Kamino, which I was not aware of. Now, obviously, I couldn't build this because my base plate is only a brick and 2 plates tall. So I had to basically come up with a different idea. This was inspired by someone in a chat for one of my live streams named Chris Fernie, who said that I should have a pod sticking halfway out the water. Now, I thought this was quite an interesting idea, but I wasn't quite sure how to accomplish it. I'm not super happy with the final result, hence why it's just kind of hidden as sort of more of an Easter egg rather than anything else. But I think it's still quite funny. You can see that I've kind of tried to end up the lines with these shield pieces, kind of like recreating the circle, although it's not perfect. And I've kind of got a bit of water coming out behind it, so it looks like it's moving, even though it's probably moving the wrong way, and it's got no actual way to get into the main platform, but, you know, it's not that important. And here's what it looks like with the 4 relevant characters in there. You can see they are kind of stuffed in and I can't fully bring down the hatch. But it brings across the right idea of what basically needed to happen in this room. It's not a room, I don't know why I'm saying that. But yeah. It's not great, that's why it's hidden away. I had to take the legs off of these guys so they could actually fit in, but this is basically the final result. Yeah, moving on. Okay, so after about a week of them being off, I've finally reattached the platforms with the water underneath, and just as I suspected, you can hardly see the water. So that's good. I should have paid more attention to these spurts down here, because these are the ones you actually see. But anyway, never mind. You can see here I've done a little bit of editing to this platform. I've put another podium in there, and I've just realised that the 3rd brick down is a little bit yellowed, so I'm going to switch that one out and get back to you in a sec. I just wanted to put something in the middle of one of these platforms to make it look a little bit more interesting and a little bit more accurate. Preferably, I'd like it to be 6x6 instead of 4x4, but LEGO don't really make that pieces as short as I want them to for this situation, unless I just did a bunch of 6x6 round plates, but I don't have them in dark bluish grey, so this is basically the best thing I can do. I also added some more studs facing up so I can add some more minifigures in here when I get to minifigure placement at some point. You can see now I've put a couple clones behind just for fun, and I've got these actual like spires in the actual, whatchamacallit, kind of central section. You can see I changed out the design for the bottom of this purely because I needed hollow studs in the top section of there so the bars could actually fit into something. So it's a little bit taller, but I still think it looks quite good in all. Now it's time to figure out what to do for the rest of this episode. Okay, so as Kamino is now pretty much coming to an end, I need to think of the final few things I can include. And one thing which I thought would be quite interesting was to have some kind of animal in the mock, because there currently isn't one. And looking back at Season 3 of the Clone Wars, which this was initially supposed to be based off, I know it's kind of gone down the Bad Batch route quite a lot recently, but there is this scene where Obi-Wan jumps onto these giant flying creature thingies. I don't know how to pronounce their name. Is it like an Awiha? Awiha? I don't know. But yeah, I thought I might try and build one of these to have under like the backside of Kamino just to kind of fill in that gap next to the pod. And I'll try and design one of these things. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so when building this creature type thing, I'm working with 2 main colors. Looking at it in the show, it skews between either being olive green or dark green. Now you can see here I clearly have a lot more dark green, like I've got a big box of it full of different shapes and sizes and pieces. So I could probably build a better overall model with this piece, this box I mean. Whereas this bag, I've got less of it, but I think it may be slightly more accurate, purely because I would be able to use this piece here, which is the basilisk head from the new 2021 LEGO Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets set. This is the basilisk head, and it just works as being some kind of creature head and would look much better than if I were to actually try and build one, because I would end up having to use these pieces as eyes and then we'd have a big old issue. So yeah, I think this is, if this would love to focus at some point, this is the head that I'm probably, there you go, I'd love to end up going with. Even if this is more accurate, I can just build a better body through this head with the pieces I've got. So I'm going to try my best to use all of this as best I can to create something that looks fairly accurate. I'll probably stray away from using these pieces, but stick to the rest of the stuff. And let's see what I can come up with. So I'll show you once I've got a bit of progress done on that. Okay, so after some time tinkering around, I've got my 2 basic colours that I'm going to be working with. This for the main like top side, and then this for the underside. I think I've got together some kind of prototype for the wing. I'm using a brick bending technique, which is often known how to use on these net pieces. What I'm doing is basically folding them over so you get this kind of triangular shape, and then building the bricks around it so you can kind of get that bend downwards. It does mean that it does kind of have like a black middle to it, but this isn't really a focus of the mock. It's kind of just a last minute addition. So I'm basically going to create 2 of these and connect them in the middle and add that head on. And hopefully this should create some kind of creature looking thing. So let's make a second wing. Okay, so I've now constructed the second wing, but there's one like weird issue with it that I don't entirely know how I've managed to do, but I have. If you lift this up, you can see there's some slight flex to it, but not that much. It just moves down a little bit. However, when you move this one up, the entire thing like is a lot more fluid in its motion. Now, I think I actually like this version better because it looks more natural actual movement for the wings, which is kind of what I expected more. So I'm not sure why this one's so rigid. They're built in largely the exact same ways. Just me using a couple of 1x1s on this like slight bend here. But even in the other sections, it still moves a lot more differently. So I'm not sure why that's happened. And I don't really know how to fix it because I already tried to rebuild this to try and make it look more like this, but it just stayed the same. So I'm just going to try and reconnect them to a body now to build out this creature. And here it is, the Awia or Awaha or however you pronounce it in its completion. You can see I've got the basilisk head on it. It looks a little bit angrier than the actual thing does, maybe just because the mouth is open. Maybe I've got to do all this one-handed. If I shut it like that, you can kind of see it a little bit more naturally. You can see I've got the wings flowing behind it and it's got a nice long tail to it as well. As I said before, this isn't perfect, but I still think it looks quite good. And I'll probably have it on the underside or on the back of Kamino, so I think for what it is, this isn't all too bad. All in all, and I can get Obi-Wan riding it as well. So, yeah, not too bad. And with that, that will wrap up the penultimate week of building Kamino. Yes, next week should be the last update before the finale. And that update will almost entirely consist of minifigure placing and fixing up small little areas, such as the training room, which has fallen apart 30 times. I'm going to make that actually finished and solid. So yeah, it's going to be a fun one. But in terms of this episode, that should just about be it. If you like this week's update, like the video. That's what the like button's there for. Comment your favourite thing we got done this week. For me, I probably would say it's this little flying thing. It's pretty cool. And subscribe if you're new, because Kamino is just about to be finished and you do not want to miss it. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. As always, I really do appreciate it. And goodbye.